Every year, when August starts approaching, Five Nights at Freddy's fans often get really excited, because they feel like that something might get announced or revealed at the anniversary. However, they're almost always met with disappointment, considering most of the time the anniversaries are just art, merch campaigns, little things like that. Obviously there are exceptions, like Security Breach was announced on the 8th anniversary, and the 10-year anniversary had a bunch of stuff, but I mean that was particularly special. I mean it was 10 years, right? But for the most part, they're not usually super exciting. Now normally, I wouldn't be excited for this anniversary either. It would just be more or less the same thing, not much goes on, art, merge campaigns, whatever. Maybe one of the fanverse devs feels particularly generous and shares something cool there, on their own accord. But there's been a comment that Scott made last year that kind of been sticking with me a little bit. Last year, on the 11th anniversary, Scott Cawthon says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to read this part out. Hey everyone, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for 11 years. I apologise for not having anything special planned this time, but there are a lot of great things happening, not the least of which is putting the finishing touches in the movie, which I can't wait for all of you to see. I actually misread several parts of that, but you get the point. The part that's interested me is that he apologised for not having anything to share. That stood out to me because that kind of implies that he might be planning to share things. I don't know, because as I said, it's pretty common for Five Nights at Freddy's not to share anything. So it feels weird to apologise for not sharing anything when you usually don't. So to me, this almost comes off as if now this Scott Games Twitter account exists, that he might start sharing things himself every year. Of course, the 10-year anniversary is when the account was created, or created for the 10-year anniversary, and of course he shared a lot of things then, and since then he shared something about the film and Secret of the Mimic when they were coming up. And then yeah, the last year he said that, just to get something out for the anniversary. So I think he might try and do something for this year as well, even though there's not a whole lot of precedent for it. If he apologised for not having anything to share last year, I think he's going to try and aim for something every year, even if it is just a comment apologising for having anything. Considering that we know there are a bunch of projects going on behind the scenes right now, a bunch of them have actually been leaked, and a few of them we just know are upcoming and we're just waiting any day for news on, I actually think that one of these things is a very good chance of being properly announced on this year's anniversary, August 8th. While I'm not normally the type of person to hype up anniversaries, I am questioning whether there will be something. That's kind of the first part of this video, is me just going, I guess that's the first question I want to raise you guys. Do you think there'll be anything for this year? Normally there isn't, but am I the only one who thinks that apologising for not having anything implies there would be things going forward? Maybe that's just me looking too much into it, but that was definitely the impression left on me, and I want you guys to tell me what you think about that. Going on to something else though, let's say there is an announcement, right? Let's say there is something. What would it be? As I said before, there's a bunch of spin-offs and things being worked on behind the scenes, and it could be a lot of different things. It's obviously not going to be as big as the 10-year anniversary. At most, it's going to be like one little thing. But if I had to predict one thing that could be shared here, I know this is going to be extreme cope, but I think there's a good chance that we might get Scott-style teaser images again for this next game, starting with this anniversary. And I have a reason to believe this, because, as I mentioned quickly beforehand, he did share some things in the lead up to Secret of the Mimic. And Secret of the Mimic itself did have a couple of really interesting teasers last minute. They were so late that no one really had the opportunity to talk about them, but most of those were sent by Steelwall, you know, the good old Murray's, what was it called? The Murray Archives? I don't remember exactly what they're called, sorry. MCM Archives, that's it. Like, those happened, and then of course the countdown, like 1 week before launch happened, and then there's what Scott himself shared, which were these little TV screen things, where you saw camera footage across MCM, which had URLs hidden in them which led to showing off gameplay. I love that he's shared off little secrets here, and the camera footage is in the secrets I thought was a really, really cool idea. I don't like that they shared it one day before release, and that one of those were way too spoilery. Like, not gonna lie, we should have had Jackie's gameplay footage long before then, and we shouldn't have had Dolly's spoiled. Big Tops is cool, but again, like 1 day before launch, really? Like, come on. If you want to give us cool teasers, you got to give us time to talk about them. But because he did share that, it's making me think that Scott might want to start being more involved with hyping things up. Especially now, even after Secret of the Mimic, where people complain about the marketing quite a bit. So if these teasers were here, to be like, oh, we gotta do something cool because people aren't satisfied with what's being shared, and then we still complained even after because it was too little too late, then maybe he'll try and build up this next game. He'll finally start listening to criticism and start having the odd teaser image for the next game as well. And I think that would be a really, really cool reveal for the 12th anniversary, to be the reveal of Scott Games teaser images coming back. Even if only just one-off for the anniversary, it would still be a really great way to reveal the next game. So considering as we are aware that there is a next game being worked on. Like back in 2024, Scott Cawthon confirmed there was another Steelball project being worked on. So it's been in development for a while now. It's a pretty big game, it's not just a small epilogue game like Help Wanted, Help Wanted 2. Like, it's been in development for 2 years, and still hasn't even been announced yet. So it's a big project. For reference, Secret Mimic was only in development for about 3 years, Security Breach about 4, and Help Wanted was about 2, if I recall correctly. That one I could be misremembering. And Help Wanted 2 was literally all done within a year. So the development timeframes for over 2 years, and still not even being announced, like, that is a bigger project. I could turn this into a prediction video about the next game as well, but I think that would be a little bit too much to cram into this. I've talked a lot about my predictions on live streams, and I think I've done one video on it before. So when we get new information on the next game, I'll probably give my predictions and stuff there. But for now, I'll just say that. Another alternative, though, is Fetch. Into the Pit was the 10-year anniversary release, so non-zero chance that Scott may be trying to make Mega Cat's games anniversary games. That could be a really cool trend to start up. And it wouldn't be weird that we haven't heard of it at this point, because Mega Cat Studios, as well as Click Team, they shared their trailers very, very late. Like 5 Labs and Into the Pit, where I think they were both had their trailers like right before launch. Like, I'm pretty sure we only knew about Into the Pit months beforehand because of leaks. Like, they took a long time before they actually promoted it. So it would not surprise me if Fetch just got a trailer like a week before the anniversary and it just came out. The only reason why I am hesitant is because it's only been 2 years since Into the Pit. Game development takes a lot of time, and Mega Cat have been working on other IPs in between. Like, there was a God of War game they were working on there. So I don't think that Fetch should be ready yet, to be honest, which is why my main bet is on Five Nights at Freddy's 12 teaser. But that was one that crossed my mind, and I know it would have crossed someone else's mind as well, so I had to mention it. And of course, as I said before, very high chance it could just be a random spin-off if he wants to show something. Or, hell, maybe I read too much into that announcement, and it's just going to be another comment saying, hey, nothing was revealed. Who knows? I just thought, if there was a possibility, I wanted to talk about it slightly. But let's say there isn't. Let's say there is nothing announced. Thing is, there is still things coming this year. This has been a very, very quiet year for Five Nights at Freddy's, and a lot of fans have been getting a bit impatient, especially considering there's a lot of leaks, particularly around cancelled projects, that have gotten people a little bit disappointed. Feels like there's more cancellations than actual games coming out, which, to an extent, for this year, it's kind of true, because this year is a quiet year. Five Nights at Freddy's kind of alternates, at least modern Five Nights at Freddy's, alternates between quiet years and big years. So every 2 years, a big new release comes out, like Help Wanted, Security Breach, Help Wanted 2, all the main Steelball games come out like every 2 years. And then in between then, usually something's being built up. It's never too long before we have a game to be excited for. In that sense, right now we're actually in the longest period between games and their announcements. So like, I think previously the longest wait for a first teaser was Pizza Sim, because Scott kind of let us on into thinking it was just a spin-off game, and we didn't know there was a proper Five Nights at Freddy's 6 being developed, or at least it looked like it was on hold, because there technically was a Scrap Baby Eyes teaser, but when the eyes were closed and Scott was working on the Pizza Sim game, it felt like it was being delayed for a bit. The first time we actually knew that a Five Nights at Freddy's 6 was in full swing development was about the Freddy Files, I believe, but the teaser at the end of that, and the time between Sister Location's release and the Freddy Files release was 10 months-ish. So that was the longest wait we've had in the past, was that nearly a whole year before a new game properly got teased. But that has now been surpassed, because Secret of the Mimic came out over a year ago, and we still don't have any information officially about the next project. We know that there is a next project, that's pretty much all we know, and we can use logic from where the games have left off to try and predict it. But again, no official teasers at all regarding this next project from Steelball. It shouldn't be too long until we get a first announcement, at the latest early next year, I feel like. Like, even if this is the longest we wait, it would be very surprised if it wasn't announced by next year. But aside from that, releases this year. There are some games coming out. They're just small spin-offs. I know some of you won't care about this, but there are things coming out. So Freddy or Not is coming out, and that's like this really small spin-off game where you kind of like guess Freddy's characters. Not gonna lie, it looks like a lot of fun. I'm really excited for it. The demo is coming out, by the way. It's the demo that's coming out, not the full release. The full release is still a while off yet, but The demo is apparently scheduled for this year, and it sounds like it's really, really close. And that's not the only game, that's not the only fanverse game that's coming out this year. There's a way bigger elephant in the room, a way bigger highlight, the joy of creation. The joy of creation is by far my most hyped up Fast Freddy's project for me. I'm the most excited for that one out of any other upcoming project. And it looks amazing. I played the original, I liked the original Joy of Creation story mode, but the new fanverse remake, we got a demo, by the way, we got a demo a few years ago. I know whenever I bring up the Joy of Creation, people are always like, oh, but didn't that already come out? A demo came out on the anniversary, but not the full release. So the full release of that should be this year, or at least hasn't been officially announced, but Nixon, the developer, has had a few comments here and there saying he'd be very surprised if it didn't come out this year. So it sounds like it's very, very late in development at this point. So that's something that is very exciting. But yeah, those are unfortunately kind of the only game projects coming out. In fact, there's not even a new book coming out. Because the only book that's coming out is an adaptation of Tales, I believe, and that's not even a new story because it's a graphic novel adaptation. So there's not even a new book to look out for. It's really just those two small spin-off games, but they are still something. There's not nothing going on. There's 2 small spin-off games upcoming soon, one of which looks really, really impressive. And at this point, we've already waited so long for the next game project that it can't be that much longer until it gets announced. And worst case scenario, I feel like next year. But Fast Freddy's, again, typically runs on 2-year cycles, and usually the year before a game comes out, we know about it, at least in terms of Steel Wars games. And it'd be very, very weird to break that now, especially if they've been hearing us in the communication complaints, which I would hope they are, but, I mean, I guess hope's very, very different to reality sometimes, isn't it? So, I guess that's all I really wanted to cover in this video. It's just a short video, just because it was on my mind, the comment was on my mind that made me think, hey, we might get something this year after the 12-year anniversary. Just something small, maybe a spin-off, maybe a teaser. Let me know if you guys think we'll get anything for that. But, worst case scenario, if we don't, we've still got Freddy or Not the Joy of Creation, and that's not too bad. We've had worse years for the series. We've had years where nothing but books have come out. So, like, the Joy of Creation isn't that bad. I know it can be a bit disappointing when there's so much talks of cancellations and leaks, and we don't even have a hard set date for the things that are coming out this year, so there's no day to be excited for or anything. But there are still things this year. Try not to be too upset about it. We aren't going to be waiting much longer. And again, I guess that's all I wanted to say. Sorry if this video felt kind of meaningless, just something I wanted to talk about. And I'll see you next time.